Yeah, we're
I
live.
think we're on. Yes, we're struggling to function here.
We've had some technical difficulties.
Yes.
And also, as you may have noticed, if you are catching this live, we have a terrible track record when it comes to taking photos to
Yes.
as our placeholder photos until we
Yes.
upload the nice ones. So heads up if we do another knit along. That's an incentive to join live because you'll get to see whatever ridiculous picture ends up.
Yes. The preview.
Yeah, the preview photo until
Goofy preview.
until we look nice again.
Yes.
And composed.
Oh my god.
So welcome back.
Yeah. Let me just go
Yeah.
to the right page.
See, Caitlin brought her notes. I didn't bring my notes. I did bring the pattern though.
Yes, that's good. Excellent.
All right. What are we doing tonight, Caitlin?
So this week we are talking about sleeves. Basically the sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so picking up to knit the sleeves, and then sleeve decreases,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And we brought, let's turn this light on.
We're so professional.
Oh, I know. Is that better? Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm now very sweaty, but it's fine.
we brought, I have my sweater, which I've done some modifications, so I've already knit two Felix, so I'm knitting a Felix but with different increases. And I have gotten to a point where I can work the sleeves, so we're going to demonstrate how to pick up the sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
Click the light once more, Katie says. Okay,
So that we don't look like the paparazzi
let's see.
are attacking us in like rapid speed.
Up. That's the highest, I think.
Well, maybe. Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah, so
All right. Maybe she was telling us it's too high. They don't want to see us in this high def.
I don't know.
Yeah. Before we get started, unless we have any comments.
I'm just opening it up.
Perfect. I'll lay out for a moment. So the reason why I didn't do much knitting this week is because I think last week we kind of mentioned that we were working on another fun thing for October that's knitting related, and we did launch a free sock pattern on our website. It's the Quilt Block socks. Mine
They're
have
so cute.
not been blocked yet, despite the name. And yeah, you can grab that for free on our website. We're doing knit along. We announced it in the newsletter and I think on social media.
Yeah, and we've got some
Like a
amble
contest.
sock kits. So we have made minis of a white or a gray. That's where you do the pattern here to go along with whatever color of amble you want. And they're really, really nice, heathered, beautiful colors.
I had a day today and I bought some
Ooh,
amble because
so
it's
pretty.
beautiful. Okay, I feel like we're getting off topic here.
I love
But new sock pattern just dropped on our website.
Yes.
It's free. We had fun putting it together and designing it. We hope you have fun knitting it. And so I was working on those samples the last couple of weeks, which is why I didn't do any knitting on my Felix this week.
Yeah.
And why we're using wonderful Caitlin's sweater to demonstrate how to pick up.
Yes.
Last week we talked a little bit about like the conception and theory of sleeves, which is a sentence.
Yes, we did. We did kind of go into it a little bit, and
Yeah.
some people had some questions
Yeah.
about that last time. So we did kind of dive into that a little bit, but we will go into that a little more now.
And specifically, we're going to address how to pick up those stitches for the underarm, because that's not the underarm, for the underarm to demonstrate that technique, because it might be probably new for a lot of you, especially if this is your first sweater.
Yeah, and there's definitely some tips and tricks for that, you know, because often people end up with a little bit of a hole there.
And I remembered my other business, which was, this is, in addition to being a day, this has been a week. And so obviously the waist shaping blog is not up yet, but it will be up soon. Yes, hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah,
Excellent.
we're working on it. It's a coming. Yes, so we're going to talk about how to pick up, I'm going to use yours because mine is dark like my soul. We're going to be talking about how to, if you remember from the Lifeline conversation, we talked about putting these stitches on hold on some scrap yarn. So we are going to put these stitches back on a needle and we're going to pick up stitches on that section that we cast on.
Yes.
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 Yes. It was a cast on, not a bind off, that we cast on when we split for our sleeves, and that's where we're
Yeah.
going to pick up this.
And do you want me to grab my needles?
I have a needle at the bottom. Why don't you go grab your needle?
Okay, I'll go grab a needle.
I'll just tell everybody how beautiful you all look this evening and how wonderful your sweater projects are. We've been seeing some sneak previews. People are starting to finish the sweaters because you're eager beavers getting them done. And I think our colleague Julie finished her sweater, and I saw pictures today, not in person. And I have to say, Julie, it looks pretty amazing. So congratulations.
I'm trying to at least get
Yeah.
what of the right needle.
Okay.
It's not going to be the right exact needle.
That's fine. It's for demonstration purposes only. There's a cat. Sorry. I forget you have a cat.
Yeah. Here you go.
Okay. Now, am I demonstrating this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you have a strong desire to.
No, you're
No.
welcome to.
Definitely not.
You're welcome to.
Alrighty. Yarn-wise, do you
Mhm.
have that extra ball, or can I cut this?
You can cut that.
All right.
Yeah.
So, first of all, you're going to need, oh, the cat is very distracting. You are going to need, in like the cute way.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what I
Yes.
meant, yeah. You're going to need a new ball of yarn, or presumably if you've bound off your sweater,
Mm-hmm.
you can use the extra of that ball of yarn.
Go ahead.
Leave you an end. This is also, so what we're doing with Caitlin's, which is to start the sleeves before she has finished the body. It's also a technique you can use to yarn chicken if you only have a few balls of yarn left.
Yeah.
Quite handy technique. And then you can knit the sleeves and the body and the sleeves and the body and just keep
Yeah.
going until you kind of hit the maximum that the yarn will let you do.
What I'm going to do, because I'm using yarn that I didn't have a plan for, so I'm kind of like, there's a little bit of yarn chicken.
Yeah.
I am going to knit, I was going to knit until I ran out of this ball. I'm about,
Sorry.
that's okay. I knit past the sleeves, okay, and I've knit to maybe like, I think 3 inches. So I'll just knit until I run out of this. And then I'm going to start a new ball of yarn, a new skein, and I'm going to weigh it. I'm going to knit my sleeve, and I'm going to weigh it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that I have enough for my other sleeve.
And if not, then you'll go back a bit shorter.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's all about making it work for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I have 2 skeins left, and
Yes. Running out. Yes,
Yeah.
actually, my friend Paige, who cast on the sweater back in August and made me
Mm-hmm.
super jealous because I couldn't cast on yet. She's almost done her sweater too, and she's also playing sleeve yarn.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Alrighty, so let's do this. So you're going to need your.
Should we angle this down?
Sure. All right. So you're going to need a circular needle
A little
again.
bit closer.
So if you recall when you cast on for the neckline, you started with your smaller size for the ribbing, and then you switched to the larger size of the shorter circular, so like 16 inch, for the beginning of this neck. And then, somebody, oh, Paige, oh, you bought more yarn. Okay, good. Hi, Paige. So we used 2 short circulars. We used the smaller size for the ribbing, larger size to get started on the yoke, and then when there were too many stitches, we switched to the one that is currently holding the body. So we need to go back in time to the shorter. Gotta go back in time. Oh, we don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. We need to go back to that. In I think both of our cases, a 6 millimeter, 16 inch or whatever your larger size was. You're gonna go back and you're gonna use that to pick up the sleeve, unless you're doing magic loop, at which point we're gonna use the needle that Caitlin had.
Yeah, it's what I had handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, just like when we did our lifeline we put our stitches on hold, we have them on the yarn here. Do you want me to save this or can I cut it?
Just cut it. It's
Okay.
fine.
As we know from one of the previous episodes,
Yeah.
I save all my little scraps. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So much like we took the darning needle with the yarn, we are instead going to take our regular knitting needle and pop these stitches back on to the needle. I'm trying to make it look pleasing, but it's hard to do that and angle for the camera. So just popping these all on to the needle one at a time. And something that's really important is to make sure your stitches are happy stitches or the right way on the needle. So if you look, does that focus?
Yeah.
The right leg is in front, the back leg is in the back. You would notice if it is reversed when you go to knit the stitch. And if it's reversed,
it'll be twisted.
It'll just flip it when you get to it if you're like, oh, this feels a little bit different when I'm going to knit it.
Yeah.
But if you can catch it the right way, that's helpful. And you'll see that I haven't pulled out my thread yet until I've got my stitches on my needle, because that just ends up being a little less painful.
Yeah. And Sylvie says, can you use 3 straight needles? So
DPNs?
Double pointed needles, yes, you could definitely use DPNs.
Yeah.
Obviously not straight needles that have a tab at the end or a stopper at the end.
You need to be able to knit on both ends of the needle.
Right. Yeah. So yes, if you have double pointed needles, you can totally do that. I would make sure that they're longish.
Yes, 8
needles.
inch at least.
8 inch, yeah.
Unless you're knitting a very small, if you're knitting a child sweater or a very small arm sleeve. Jeez, really has been a day.
Yeah.
Although I did have pie. Thank you, Catherine and Faustina. So
good.
Yeah, there's pie.
Yeah. You can definitely use double pointed needles. Just make sure your stitches don't fall off the edge. Don't put too many on one needle.
Exactly. Yeah. Divide them evenly. If you are using double pointed needles, you may find it easier to start with 4 plus your 1 working needle, and then as you decrease, you could work down to 3 if you prefer to work with 3, because you're going to have the most number of stitches now.
Right.
All right, so we're almost done. This one's a little tricky.
Yeah.
So just get in there.
Yeah, sometimes you have to pull it a little bit to kind of, it kind of, the stitch kind of ducks, it almost drops, but it's still being held by the yarn.
So it's right here. Yeah, which is exactly why you'd want to keep the yarn in
exactly
until this moment. So I'm just going to grab it there. And then this guy right here. Just a little fussy.
Yep, we can
pull them up. There we go.
Pretty good. We can see pretty well on this screen.
Oh, that's good. Thank God we're not using my yarn. Okay. Yes. Perfect. Okay. And now that we have all of them, we can pull out our yarn.
Yes. The
waste yarn. That's the word I was looking for. Waste yarn. Okay. So we now have all our stitches on the needle. If you are new to doing this kind of thing, taking stitches off and back on the needle, I would recommend slipping around and making sure that you've got all your stitches, that you haven't dropped anything, all that kind of stuff before you proceed, because you might as well have a nice fresh slate. Everything's in the right position. Everything is on the needle before you move on to the next step. I saw we had a question.
Yes, Retreat Junkie has a big question. Okay. Do we always have to cast on extra stitches under the arm? Is it possible to have enough sleeve increases and body decreases to just pick up the sleeve stitches and knit the sleeve? Ditto for the body.
I would always pick up under the arm.
Yeah.
Pretty much. There might, if you come across a pattern that really doesn't cast on anything, because I'm thinking about some of those swanchos. No, you'd need that for a swancho. You basically need the extra fabric here so that you can raise your arm.
Yeah. I mean, we're 3-dimensional human beings
most of the time.
I think
sometimes
probably there's not really a lot of situations where you would not.
Yeah, because if you compare, you've got this much space if you pick up stitches along here versus that much space.
Right.
And
yeah. And also, so maybe you're asking this question because you're looking at it and you think that is giant for a sleeve. But what you'll see here when we go to knit the sleeve, you'll see there's this kind of little scoop here. That's where you end up with a hole usually.
Yeah.
And so when I pick up, when I start knitting it, I close this area up. So it'll actually be quite a bit smaller
And
than what it looks like.
Yeah, and then what I do, which I'm about to demonstrate, is instead of picking up extra stitches and decreasing right away, I don't care if there's a hole, who cares?
Yeah.
Let the hole be, and then I go in with my tail yarn, and I weave in the ends, or I cut new tails and weave them in, and of course I didn't bring my sweater, but you can't see it on my sweater. You can't see where there was a hole, and there were absolutely 2 holes under each underarm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Someone says, how do you avoid holes in 2 edges of pickups? Yeah. So we both have different ways of doing that.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll demo my style on this side, and we'll flip to you to demo your style on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
And so what we're going to be doing is, because we've got a long circular, we're going to do magic loop style, which is not my standard style of knitting, but it is, oh kitty, oh god, I'm so distracted, is what I use in a pinch if I've accidentally packed the wrong size needles to do a sleeve.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start by identifying how many stitches we need to pick up. And I don't remember what size you're knitting, so let's just knit it.
I'm doing the 48, which is the 3rd size.
Okay, so we're going to, in this case, pick up 7 stitches along this line here. And we're going to pick up 7. Yeah, sorry, we're starting in the center. So make sure to read the instructions. Sometimes a pattern will have you pick up all your stitches, knit around, and come back into the middle. But in this case, they want you to pick up stitches from half on. Oh, thank you. And then knit around and then pick the other half of the stitches up. So one thing that I like to do, because I'm a little fussy, which should come as no shock to most people who know me about my knitting.
Do you mark where the halfway point is?
I do.
I do too.
Hi, twinsies. This is a lovely stitch marker given to me by a friend. Knitting is my jam. So I'm going to fold, who's got anxiety? We've's got anxiety. All right, I'm gonna pin this section right here in the center. And that will just help me evenly space out my stitches. And I'm going to try and count 7 versus 6 on the other side. So I'm going to count the 1 in the middle, and then I'm going to try and count 7 across this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect.
And maybe when you go into it, maybe just hold it a little bit closer so they can see where you're inserting your needle.
So everyone kind of has their own technique. The most, and like when you're beginning, it's kind of hard to see what you're doing in the first place. So my number 1 recommendation would be just be consistent. Pick your point and do the same point everywhere across, and it will look consistent.
And it's also your armpit.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be visible at all times.
No. Most times.
Right.
If you're lazy like I am. 2 methods. I'm going to show 2 methods. So you can pick up with your needle, but if you're just getting started, you might find it handier to pick up with a crochet hook, or we sell these very cute little hooks that are quite handy for you knit socks or anything like that. They've got a point on this side that can help you get into a tricky place, and they've got a little hook, and I think they're only a couple bucks. So basically I'm going to choose to go under these 2 legs here, like so. And where's my yarn? There's my yarn. Using my crochet hook, I'm going to make a little loop, my yarn, grab it with the hook, and pull it through like so, and pop that on my needle. And sometimes if the stitching is hard and it's kind of hard to see what you're doing, I will use a crochet hook, or if it's like really fidgety. But if it's nice and easy and laid out like this, I will often just use my needle. So take the tip of the needle, go in to your spot, wrap the yarn, and then I'm gonna pull on the sweater here and pop my stitch back out like that. So that's the sort of the lazy man's way of doing it, but I often will only do it when it's really easy, and when it starts to be tricky, I will pull out my hook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do it with the hook one more time after this one. So go in, wrap the yarn, come back out. And so this is called picking up and knitting, because you go in,
Yeah.
grab the yarn and come back up. If you were, often when people talk about picking up, they're talking about this. Sometimes they just mean like put a weird loop on your needle, but most of the time they mean pick up and knit a
Yeah.
stitch so that it sits comfortably on the needle and it doesn't warp the fabric when it's sitting.
Yeah, this is the only way I've ever done it on a
Yeah.
sweater.
And so I'll do it with the hook again. I'm going to go back under those stitches.
Awesome, thank you. Space for the 3D armpit. Yes. Another question, please tell us how to avoid the icky ladders between DPNs. I tried knitting the first stitch tighter, but the whole sleeve is tighter gauge.
Try knitting the second stitch tighter. Sorry, that sounds facetious. I'm not being facetious.
I have heard that before too.
Yeah.
I
Not the first stitch, the second stitch, because it will tighten it up. Honestly, I get ladders in my work.
So what I do, 'cause I don't usually use DPNs, but I do Magic Loop, and you can get ladders from Magic Loop also.
Yeah.
So what I do is, I think I just kind of, I snug it up, but not too tight. And then the other thing that I do is I switch the space.
That's quite clever.
Every few rows. How do I explain this?
Yeah.
So let's say you have your sleeve and you've got like 30 stitches, 30 stitches, 30 stitches, 30 stitches. Okay. After like, 10 rows, I will do 29 stitches.
Yeah.
31 stitches, so that the points where the two needles meet aren't always the same all throughout, and it kind of balances the whole thing out a little bit more.
But also, like, I mean, if you stretch my knitting on this sock, you can see there's a bit of a ladder along here.
Yeah.
But the second you're not stretching it to, the end all and be all, no one's going to notice.
Yeah.
And when you wash it, that will help a little bit.
Exactly.
When you wear it, that will help
Blocking
even things out.
does help. Yeah.
Yes.
And they say, are you picking up back and front of stitch? Here.
Oh, I am picking on...
There's kind of a little, notch, like, I don't know if you can see, there's like a little kind of tag at the top.
So I'm picking up the little front dude and the back dude, but you can pick up just the back dude, just the front dude. If you wanted to, you could pick up under this upside down V that's the stitch. You could pick up directly into the stitch if you wanted to. Just be consistent along the edge. Choose what your technique is going to be. Choose what your point is. Repeat, and it'll look.
And the nice thing about this part is you can easily rip it back.
Oh God, yeah.
And do it again.
Yeah,
like if you pick up the row and you're like, oh, that looks awful.
Yes, I've done that
or
before.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just pull it right out because it's not. These aren't live stitches.
No, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to power knit and then I'm going to pass.
Okay.
So, in addition to, on the topic of blocking, in addition to talking about picking up the sleeve, we are also going to briefly talk about blocking and rave about it.
Yes, good. They like that answer.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Make your life easy. Do whatever you can make look good and then just repeat it. There's no rule.
No, and a lot of it comes with practice too,
And
right? Like
we're literally the last people to say like,
experimenting.
no, this way or the highway.
Yeah, experimenting.
Yeah.
Asking other people what they do is always helpful.
Yes, and what is easy for me might be quite difficult for you, and vice versa. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a lot of needles happening here.
There's a lot of needles. But I guess this also showcases my technique of only pay attention to the needles that you're working with.
Yep.
Ignore all the rest of them.
And this is not, I'm not going to stress about this sweater. When it was with you and Katie, I was without it for one night and I cast on a ranunculus. I'm terrible.
Side note, if you love the Felix and you're like, oh, I think I will make 10 of these, you may also enjoy the ranunculus and you may also want to make 10 of those. The yoke can be fussier, but literally everybody, no matter their knitting skill that I know that has tried to make a ranunculus has run into a problem. and then they've made their first, and they're like, I need to
Yeah.
go make 6 more.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's a really interesting pattern. It's very versatile in terms of which weight of yarn you can use, and I find the fit very similar. It has a round yoke instead of a raglan, but it's very similar.
okay, Caitlin, we are at the other half.
Okay.
What can I give you?
Okay. So when I'll just show where you, where Emily went from the underarm stitches to the top of the arm, she leaves it. She just literally starts knitting the next little bit, and that's the part where she's going to pick up at the end, at the very end, and use the little tails to kind of close that up.
Yeah.
So what I do that's a little bit different, and hopefully I can.
Yeah. What do you need?
I'm
ready to support you.
We need like a third like camera person or something.
Yeah. We need a professional film crew.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I'm sure most of you would also agree at this point.
Right. I know, right? Okay, so this is, okay, let me just get settled
just a little
here.
closer. Yeah.
A little closer. So this is kind of where I'm going to pick up, what is it, 7 stitches or 6 stitches?
6
okay,
stitches.
so this is where I'm going to start to pick up the 6 stitches. But before I do that, and I would do that where Emily left the hole, I'm going to do the same thing here, is I'm going to pick up, you've got kind of some stitches that don't really belong anywhere. So I'm actually going to pick a couple of these up. And again, just whatever looks good.
Yep.
And you might want to make a note of how many you're picking up.
You almost certainly will want to make a note.
I usually do 2.
Yeah.
And I do some counting just to make sure I'm on the right track.
You want to do that because you want to know for when you do the next sleeve.
Exactly. For when you do the next sleeve and then for the first round after this.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm picking up an extra stitch, and there's still another spot here. So I'm going to pick up 2 extra stitches, okay? And then I'm going to pick up the 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
This yarn is so pretty.
It's from Rhinebeck.
Oh. Whoa.
What was it, 6?
I think
Okay.
you're on 5.
Okay. I'm also gonna go back and redo this, so I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Okay.
And don't count from your home, please.
All right.
No backseat counting.
So basically, I just did basically the same thing that Emily did, but when I come back, here's my stitch marker. Thank you.
So she's putting a marker in to mark the beginning of the round because that's the armpit / underside of the arm that will now be the beginning of your round.
Right. So now we're going to knit that row. Yeah. Through the magic of television. My God, this is not my most natural position to sit in while I'm knitting. To turn it sideways. Oh my gosh.
Why don't you show them just in the spot where I made the hole? Pretend that you had picked up stitches.
Right. So, well, a couple things. Okay. So where I have picked up, where I picked these stitches up, I'm going to fix that after. But let's say I didn't pick up and there was a hole. I would also pick these up.
You can do it retroactively.
Yeah. But if you're just going to knit it like Emily does, you just keep knitting that.
Yeah.
And you go all the way around.
Be with my Felix. Oh, Julie's happy with her Felix. Yay.
Yes, she looks so great.
The gal at the drive-through complimented her. Well, that's how you know when you've got a knitting muggle who's
amazing.
Just like,
yes.
ooh, look at that.
Yeah. So when I come back around to this, what I do is I make sure to decrease by 2.
Yep.
Okay. And if I don't like how it looks, I have even
Like repicked it or
repicked it. I've even done like a row where I'm like, oh, I don't like how that looks. So I'll grab another stitch and I'll knit it together with the next stitch just to kind of close it up.
Yeah.
Because I also hate those holes.
Yeah.
And it always looks fine, but it's just been an experiment of which stitches I like.
Yeah.
For each sweater, it feels a little different. But that's it. So you knit your round and you decrease those two.
Yep. In addition to your regular decreases. So I think you work you work a little bit plain work anyways, which is nice because then you can do any sort of decreasing on where you picked up those extra stitches, and then just make sure you follow the regular decreases of the sleeve, which will center around this beginning of round. And all that will create this lovely little sort of decrease line that sculpts along the underside of the arm, and then the rest of the sleeve will just be lovely stuck in it.
So it's like probably a knit two together SSK type of thing.
Which we actually, I think I texted you late last week, and you're like, oh my god, we need to do a video all about increases and decreases. And this is making me think we need to do a video about how to invisibly weave in your ends, just like an overhead shot.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
That's why I don't care about having a hole in my work.
Yeah.
Because I know how to weave in ends invisibly, and so I can just kind of
mishmash it. It's really, I have found like, just over the years I've kind of experimented with different techniques like that, and it's your armpit.
And we are literally like we pull from opposite ends of the ball, and so if we can get along, so can anyone.
Should we lift this up
now? Let's go back to the wide view and talk a little bit about blocking before we sign off.
So, the decreases. Do we want to talk about the decreases at all?
I feel like we covered it. If anyone has questions from last week on decreasing around the sleeves, follow the instructions. Caitlin has one technique that she talked about last week where you don't do any decreases until the very end. I do a tapered sleeve.
Yeah, I'm gonna try for this one because I'm doing a little bit of yarn chicken. I'm going to do the decreases for this sleeve. It's just slight decreasing all the way down until you get to the end, and then probably you'll switch to the smaller needles to do the cuff. Just like when we did the neckline and the hem, the smaller needles will allow for a tighter grip. And you can play around with how long you want the cuff too. I like mine to be long, and then I can fold it over if I have to wash my hands or whatever. If
you want to embrace your mid-2000s emo vibe, you can put a little buttonhole in for your thumb.
Oh my god.
And have your thumb stick out.
Oh my god.
Nobody tell Cal that that's an option. Because it's very like in the vein of My Chemical Romance.
So funny.
So if nobody's got decrease questions, then let's jump into blocking.
I don't think so. I think how to spell ranunculus. I will type it in the chat, okay? Retreat Junkie. It is
Retreat Junkie.
We're gonna favorite.
We're gonna get you addicted to knitting the same sweater again and again.
So blocking.
Blocking. What is blocking, Caitlin?
Well, blocking is soaking your finished piece and gently squeezing out the water and laying it out to dry. And what that does is it kind of evens everything out. It kind of like relaxes the yarn. And allows it to bloom a little bit, because some yarns change a little bit after they're washed. They get like fluffier. They fill out a little more. Big time. And I think because the kits that we put together, I don't think any of them were super wash. No. So I think all of you, if you didn't wash your swatch, may have a joyous moment of, my sweater bloomed. It's lovely. It's not a bad thing, but it sometimes will change a little bit. So the Lucky Tweed will probably have a nice bloom. Oh god, yeah. And I know like the Lucky Tweed kind of has like a textural. Same thing with the Cumbria too. It kind of has a bit of a texture to it, and it may look a little more even, and it kind of becomes one. It's really lovely. It's sort of like in the bath. The project has a chance to
breathe and relax.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost like the hair commercials where it's like,
Right.
shoo, and then it's like having its hot girl moment.
Yes.
Where it's when it's dried.
Yes.
And then, yeah, if you are knitting with the yarn and you're thinking like it's a little bit, the work is a little bit open, and you're like, oh, there's a lot more empty space than I was expecting. Sometimes washing a yarn will fill that empty space. Yeah.
If you have
mohair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if you feel like your stitches aren't like 100% even, it will often kind of just even a lot of that out.
Yes. And then there's also a fairly important component about the Felix, which is that we have a little lace detail.
Exactly.
So we had a question from one of the earlier weeks about like, what do I do if one of my lace holes isn't really as big as the other ones? When you've soaked, pressed out the water, laid it flat, you can get in there with a stainless steel T-pen or anything else that won't rust, because obviously it'll be wet. You can get in there and you can kind of open that hole up a little bit with pressure from the thing, or just even with your fingers. Stretch it out, let it air dry. Yeah. We have a blocking demo on our YouTube channel.
Yes, we do.
From so long ago.
Oh, forever.
I know. That was the month we were closed, I think.
Yeah, I think we were closed or something.
Yeah.
So we blocked a few different items. We recommend Eucalan or soak for this. It works with animal fibers, which most of you will probably be using.
And it works with plant fibers too. The whole idea is, and we have customers who buy it to wash away and things like that. Compared to like a standard detergent. Did we talk about this last time?
I don't know last time, but it doesn't have, so when you buy detergent for your clothes, it has something in it that breaks down proteins, like stains, food, fats, whatever,
blood,
sweat, all that.
Tears.
Yeah. And animal fibers and human hair fibers are proteins. Yeah. So over time, if you're using regular detergent on your wool garments, it can actually break down the fabric, and you can get little holes in your fabric. So we always recommend using soak or Eucalan. The bonus is they don't have to be rinsed, so it's a lot easier. You know, you don't have to, because a sweater is really heavy to wash, right?
Yes.
So I just put mine in the little soaking tub that I have, a little bath. Squeeze all the air bubbles out, and I just let it sit there for half an hour. And then I come back. Gently squeeze the water out.
Based on, do you want to type in what Eucalan and soak are?
Yes.
So soak is like the word soak, and then Eucalan is based off of the word lanolin, which is an ingredient. It is like a kind of oil that comes off of sheep's wool, and so Eucalan has some of that to sort of add that back into your knitted projects.
And I will also, since we're on the topic of Eucalan, mention that we are starting a little program called Endless Eucalan. So if you've been in the store before, you might have noticed we have the Best Press.
For quilters and things?
Yeah, so we have Best Press, which is a product for ironing. And we have a program where you can get it refilled, unlimited refills for a year after you purchase the container. And we're going to have the same program for the Eucalan.
I'm very excited about that.
I know,
I'm like, I just did a head count and I have 3 bottles of soak in my apartment that I might need some Eucalan. So it's the other thing was that, you don't have to rinse it, because obviously if you're not using a superwash yarn, you run the risk of any agitation sort of working towards felting it when it's wet and if it's hot. So again, the least amount of work physically that you can do,
the better. You don't want to.
And then hot tip, it can soak for hours. That's not a problem. It probably shouldn't soak for longer than a day for like the whole mold reason. But if, maybe set an alarm so that, at 10 o'clock you're not emptying out an entire Rubbermaid full of things that you forgot that you were blocking.
I totally do that.
Yeah.
I just blocked so much stuff. At the end of the summer, I start to block stuff. Or not block, I wash stuff. I call it whatever. I just wash all of my hats and scarves and sweaters and stuff so that they're ready to wear.
And if you do a dramatic blocking for something like a lace shawl or something like that, you do kind of need to block it every time that you wash it.
Yep.
This sweater should be fine if you wash and then just
Yep. Yep.
lie flat.
Really
Let it
easy
dry.
care.
The
Yeah.
classic like technique before you go to a yarn festival is always to be knitting to the last second. You need to block your sweater and you're like, oh God, I have 24 hours and I have to get in a car and drive to that somewhere, put a fan on it.
Yeah. And, you know, with wool, you don't have to wash it as often.
No.
So it's, you know, the whole hand washing thing sounds like a bit of a pain for people, but I wear my sweaters multiple times before I wash.
I marched all over Ireland in my Felix.
Yeah.
And you cannot, this is maybe a little embarrassing, you can't smell it.
Yeah. It's just, it has an antibacterial quality to
Yeah.
it. It
Makes it the perfect travel wear, honestly.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
perfect. So really, throughout the winter, I maybe wash my sweaters twice.
That's admirable.
Maybe because I have enough that I rotate
yeah,
them, right?
yeah.
So I'm not wearing all of them every single day, but hand washing sweaters is not really as big of a deal as, you know,
No.
just lay it out somewhere to dry and
Yeah, and if you have a salad spinner doesn't really work as efficiently, but if you have one of those old style top loaders that you can just put a spin cycle on and you can stop the spin cycle whenever you want, you are very lucky because you can just chuck all your stuff in there, put a spin cycle on for like 45 seconds, and then everything will have had most of the water sucked out. It's damp, laid right flat. Yeah.
And I would use just room temperature water.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't use hot.
Don't use hot water. Don't agitate. And you should be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always like one of those things where it's like after, no, it's like doing all the footnotes on an essay, weaving in your ends and blocking. Oh my God.
Yes.
But it's really worth it. And instead of getting an A on your paper, you get a really nice thing. And if you haven't wet blocked anything yet, totally try it. It will change your life. Everyone I've ever talked to who's tried it recently, like, yeah.
I kind of love washing my stuff. I know there's a lot of chores we all hate to do, but I feel like I love all my freshly laundered stuff.
And you're reconnecting with something that, like, I mean, it was your best friend for, I don't know, a month or two, right?
Really, totally.
It got you through some stuff.
Yeah.
It's often, I will be like, oh, I remember I binged X show while I was watching.
Exactly.
Or while I was knitting this project, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So take good care of your stuff. When you finish your sweater, please wear it to the store. Model it through the door.
Or tag us in pictures if you're out of town.
Pictures, yeah.
Or
We'd
send
love
us.
to see it.
I really would. It honestly, like, it's not just pablum. It brightens my day anytime someone comes in and is like, I followed whatever, or you know, you guys were doing this and look at mine. It like sends me to the moon for the rest of the day.
We love it.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any last questions to ask, now's your time.
The cat.
My cat is doing something
naughty.
I don't know. I think
He's not supposed to be doing that.
Sylvie, do you block flat or stuff sleeves?
I usually block flat.
I block flat. I'm not super worried about that kind of stuff. I mean,
because you don't really want to hang a wool knit sweater.
Yeah, you don't want to hang it up.
Because it's just going to give you this, right? And so if you're going to be storing it folded and flat, you're going to get the occasional crease mark that you just kind of have to work out with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about it.
It's not like, I don't find that my knits hold a crease like some fabrics might, like a linen or cotton.
No.
Your body will fill it out as you wear it.
Oh, yeah. But on that note, forget that noise about all the extra work of stuffing. But if you are finding it is slow to dry, so superwash wool will dry a lot slower than a non-superwash wool. And then a woolen spun yarn, like the Lucky Tweed, will dry faster than a worsted spun yarn.
Yeah.
And so if you're finding like, oh my God, this is taking forever, or like the top is dry but the bottom isn't, you're allowed to flip it over and encourage the other side to dry off too.
Yeah.
And then I would just recommend maybe not putting the damp or wet thing on something where like mold could foster as it dries. So I use like a rubber mat.
Yeah, and I get as much of the water out as I can without twisting and wringing it.
Yeah, press it with a towel.
Yeah, press it with a towel. Again, we go over all of this in the blocking video.
Yeah.
So there's lots of tips there. But yeah.
Wonderful. All right.
Keep it simple.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think, make your life easy.
Yeah.
Reach out to us if you have any questions. Just because the video series is done doesn't mean we've forgotten about the Felix.
No, we're always happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you all so much for joining us on this. This was really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do next Thursday.
I don't know.
At home twiddling my thumbs alone. Probably working on my Felix.
Yeah, maybe come over for pie or something.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good.
Leftover pumpkin pie.
Everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Sylvie says thank you.
Thank you, Sylvie.
And Retreat Junkie, are you going to do another Cal?
Probably.
We shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
We'll have to, one, look at schedules. Two, look at patterns on that note. If you have requests or suggestions.
We'll take
Same
requests.
thing, same thing for classes. If you are local and you would like to make a particular thing or learn a special technique, email the store and we'll add it to our I wonder if we could do this list.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All
right.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.